Hello aspirants, myself Kirtana Busa. I have appeared for interview in 2018. We at Narayana IAS Academy have come up with mains module to facilitate your answer writing. Important topics for the coming mains 2019 are picked, and all the important points required to cover the topic are provided in a simple and lucid manner. We are taking these points from multiple sources so that you will get sufficient points to use in the mains exam. We are also taking extreme care to provide good structure to the topic. Hope our efforts will benefit you. Having said this, let us move to an important chapter in the Indian modern history, that is Indian National Congress and the objectives of the INC. We will also look into the success of the moderates as well as the limitations in this video. The year 1885 marked a turning point in the process of India's national movement, for that was the year the political Indians, the modern intellectuals interested in politics, who no longer saw themselves as spokespersons of narrow group interests, but as representatives of national interests with respect to foreign rule, as a national party saw their efforts bearing fruit. The All India Nationalist body that they brought into being was to be the platform, the organizer, the headquarters, the symbol of new national spirit and politics. So the foundation of INC in 1885 was not a sudden event or a historical accident. It was the culmination of a process of political awakening that had its beginning in the second half of 18th century. Let us look into the prominent leaders. The period between 1885 and 1905 is called moderate phase, and the leaders were called as moderates. The most important one is Dadabhai Naoroji, who is known as Grand Old Man of India. He became the first Indians to become a member of the House of Commons in Britain. And his economic critique under the title Poverty and Un-British Rule in India was a major setback to the colonial government. And the second important one was Umesh Chandra Banerjee. In the previous years, we had a question regarding the women leaders in the Indian national movement. So if at all a question is asked about the prominent leaders during the moderate phase, have a few in handy to give the best of the answer. Umesh Chandra Banerjee, who is the first president of Indian National Congress, and he is the first Indian to act as standing counsel. And the other important one from South India is G. Subramaniam Iyer, who founded Hindu newspaper, where he criticized the British imperialism, and he is also the founder of Swadeshi Mitram as well as the Madras Mahajan Sabha. Gopal Krishna Gokhale, who is the political guru of Mahatma Gandhi, and he also founded the Servants of India Society. And Sir Surendranath Banerjee, who is called Rashtra Guru, Indian Rook, and he also organized Indian National Conference, and that is the reason he did not attend the first session of INC. After looking into the prominent leaders, let us see what are the objectives of INC. The first objective was to promote the process of India becoming a nation, that is to build Indians into a nation, to create an Indian people, ultimately to promote national unity among the various sections of the Indian society. We should not forget that India has hundreds of diverse races and creeds. The Indians during this time did not deny this, but asserted that they were now becoming a nation. India was, as Tilak, Surendranath Banerjee and many others were fond of saying, a nation in the making. So the first objective was to foster this nation in the making. And in an effort to reach all regions, it was decided to rotate the Congress session among different parts of the country. And they decided the president was to belong to a region other than where the Congress session was being held. And in order to reach out the followers of all religions and to remove the fears of the minorities, A rule was made at the 1888 session that no resolution was to be passed to which an overwhelming majority of Hindu or Muslim delegates objected. A minority clause was adopted in 1889, demanding reform of legislative councils. So all these steps were taken in order to alleviate the fear and to bring these diverse races and creeds into a nation in the making. Second objective was to create a common political platform or program around which the political workers in different parts of the country could gather and conduct the political activities. They want to educate and mobilize people on an all India basis. So this was to be accomplished by taking the grievances which Indians have in common. The third objective was to formulate the guidelines for future plan of action in the public interest. And as per Umesh Chandra Banerjee, who iterated that one of the Congress objectives was eradication of all possible race, creed or provincial prejudices amongst all lovers of the country, as well as promotion of personal intimacy and friendship amongst the more earnest workers in the country's cause. The second and the sixth aim was internalization and Indianization of political democracy, and they based this doctrine on the sovereignty of the people. And the maintenance of civil liberties and protecting freedom of press and speech and ending racial discrimination was at the foremost of their political agenda. These all are the objectives of the Indian National Congress, which was formed in 1885. We look into the success of the moderates. With their efforts, the Indian Councils Act of 1892 was the first achievement of Indian National Congress. They popularized the ideals which are very new to the nation in the making, like democracy, liberty and equality. And they exposed many draining economic policies of the British. Dadabhai Naoroji, R.C. Dutt, they were prominent leaders who have bring out the economic drain theory. They were able to sow the seeds of nationalism in the people, and they carried out an ideological struggle against the Britishers. The founding fathers carried out the struggle about colonialism in a brilliant fashion. INC incorporated different political trends, ideologies, social classes, so long as the commitment to democratic and secular nationalism was there. So we'll also look into the limitations. The early nationalists failed to understand, at least in the beginning of 20th century, what is the character of the colonial state. This is the major setback. They also did not organize mass movements against the British. In fact, they did not believe in the struggle of mass movement, and they drew most of the ideas from Western political thinking, and this has further alienated them from the people. Most of the moderates were loyalists to Britishers, and they did not demand complete independence. They just asked for the reforms. These are the limitations of the INC. However, it should not be forgotten that the nationalist or anti-imperialistic struggle is a struggle about colonialism before it becomes struggle against the colonialism. So there is a difference between struggle about colonialism as well as struggle against colonialism, and the moderates were successful in their struggle about colonialism. So if at all a question is asked about the limitations of moderates, this will be an excellent conclusion to include in the answer writing. Then we look into the question of the safety valve. If we consider the role of Evo Hume as the chief organizer of the Congress, then the question arises, if the founders of the Congress were such capable and patriotic men of high character, why did they need Hume to act as the chief organizer of the Congress? So the answer is that the Hume impressed all his liberal and democratic contemporaries, including Lala Lajpat Rai, as man of high ideals with whom it was no dishonor to cooperate. So the moderate leaders did not find it a dishonor to cooperate with Hume in order to form the INC in 1885. If that is one of the reasons, but the real answer lies in the conditions of the time. So the conditions of the time are very important in order to determine whether the action taken at that point of time is a correct one or not. So the first reason is that very few political persons in the early 1880s, considering the size of the Indian subcontinent. So there were very few political persons in order to organize such a big party. So taking the help of Evo Hume is an imperative one. And the tradition of open opposition to the rulers was not yet firmly entrenched. So this is the another major reason of that time, and the leaders of the time like Justice Rana De, Dadabhai Nauroji, Firoz Shah Mehta cooperated with Hume because they do not want hostility at such an early stage of their work. They don't want any opposition from the British government when they are stating this huge work which is in front of them, that is the building the entire nation against the colonialism. The leaders assumed that the rulers would be less suspicious and less likely to attack a potentially subversive organization if its chief organizer was a retired British servant. So taking all these factors into consideration, they have used Hume as a lightning conductor. So concludingly, we can say that if Hume and other English liberals hope to use Congress as a safety wall, the Congress leaders hope to use Hume as a lightning conductor. And as later developments show, it was Congress whose hopes were fulfilled. So this is all about INC, its objectives, its success, limitations, as well as the theory of safety wall. Hope this video is helpful. Thank you and all the best.